Welcome back to Coronation Daily episode. Think about this for a moment. What if the biggest villain in Weatherfield isn't dead? What if she's exactly where she wants to be? Watching, waiting, smiling. Because while the police search for answers, while the Platt family falls apart, and while Daniel Osborne desperately tries to rebuild his shattered life, one terrifying question refuses to go away. Where is Jodie Ramsey? And perhaps even more disturbing, does she want to be found? Because tonight, we're diving deep into the mystery that has completely shaken Coronation Street. A mystery involving blood, lies, manipulation, murder, and a woman who may have spent months turning an entire street into pieces on a chessboard. And trust me, the deeper you look into Jodie Ramsey's disappearance, the darker this story becomes. But then everything changes. When Jodie first appeared in Weatherfield, she arrived wrapped in sympathy. A lost relative, a struggling woman, a long-lost sister searching for family. At least that's what everyone believed. But now that version of Jodie feels like nothing more than a carefully constructed disguise. Because let's be honest, Jodie didn't simply arrive in the Platt family home. She infiltrated it. She entered at exactly the right moment. David and Shona were exhausted, emotionally drained, barely keeping their heads above water while caring for baby Harper. Their defenses were down. Their attention was elsewhere. And somehow, that was exactly when Jodie appeared. Coincidence? Maybe. But I don't think so. People like Jodie don't stumble into opportunities. They create them. And that may be the first clue that this entire story was planned long before she ever stepped onto the cobbles. But that may not be the whole truth. Because the most chilling part of Jodie's story wasn't what she did to the Platts. It was what she did to Daniel Osborne. And this is where things become genuinely disturbing. While Daniel was battling a brutal online trolling campaign, while his confidence was collapsing, while his reputation was being destroyed piece by piece, Jodie sat beside him, comforting him, supporting him, pretending to care, all while secretly being the person attacking him. Let that sink in. The woman wiping away his tears was causing them. The person offering comfort was creating the pain. The shoulder he cried on was the knife in his back. It's manipulative, chilling, and psychologically, it's one of the darkest things we've seen in Coronation Street for years. Because this wasn't trolling. Not really. This was control. Pure and simple. Jodie wanted Daniel isolated, dependent, broken enough to believe she was the only person who truly understood him. That's not friendship. That's emotional imprisonment. And what happens next is devastating. Eventually, Daniel reached breaking point. The pressure became unbearable. The humiliation became too much. And for one horrifying moment, the mild-mannered teacher snapped. He openly declared that he wanted to kill the troll responsible. A shocking statement, but also an incredibly revealing one. Because beneath Daniel's intelligence, beneath the books, beneath the calm exterior, was a man drowning in rage. And Jodie put him there. Every lie, every post, every cruel message, every manipulation, pushed him closer to the edge. And now that Jodie is missing, that moment of rage suddenly looks far more suspicious. Could Daniel have discovered the truth? Could he have confronted her? Could things have spiraled out of control? Or is that exactly what Jodie wants us to believe? Because someone as clever as Jodie knows the power of suspicion. She understands that the best way to escape scrutiny is to make everyone else look guilty. Suddenly, everybody looks guilty. Then came the moment everything exploded. The moment her mask finally slipped. Her desperate attempt to seduce David Platt. This wasn't romance. This wasn't attraction. This was strategy. Jodie could feel control slipping away. People were asking questions. Cracks were forming. So she targeted the strongest thing in Shona's life. Her marriage. She could break David and Shona apart. She could create chaos powerful enough to hide her own secrets. But David rejected her. Completely. And that rejection changed everything. As for someone like Jodie, rejection isn't simply painful. It's catastrophic. It's proof that every fear she has about herself might be true. It's proof she isn't wanted. And that's when things take a darker turn. Sarah Platt ends up unconscious. Jodie vanishes. And suddenly Weatherfield is left staring at a mystery nobody can explain. But perhaps the biggest clue arrived after Murder Week. Not Theo Silverton's death. Not Sarah's injuries. Not Daniel's breakdown. The blood. The blood found at number 8. Because blood changes everything. Blood creates fear. Blood creates questions. Blood creates headlines. And Jodie understood that better than anyone. Which raises a terrifying possibility. What if the blood was planted? What if Jodie deliberately transformed herself from suspect into victim? Think about it. A missing woman covered in mystery. A crime scene. A family in turmoil. A police investigation heading in 10 different directions. It's the perfect distraction. The perfect smokescreen. The perfect disappearing act. And if anyone on this street is capable of staging something that elaborate, it's Jodie Ramsey. But another possibility is even more frightening. What if somebody really did come for her? Because the shadows following Jodie stretch far beyond Weatherfield. Far beyond the Platts. Far beyond Daniel Osborne. And that brings us to the mysterious hard drive. Possibly the most important object in this entire storyline. A stolen hard drive. Unknown contents. Dangerous people searching for it. And a terrified teenager named Olivia desperately trying to get it back. Ask yourself this. Why would powerful people risk exposure over a simple piece of technology? Because what's on that drive matters. A lot. Enough to threaten lives. Enough to make people disappear. Enough to turn Jodie from predator into prey. And if Olivia's father finally tracked her down, then perhaps Jodie isn't hiding. Perhaps she's running. Or worse. Perhaps she's already been caught. But that may not be the whole truth. Because Sarah Platt's behavior is becoming increasingly suspicious. She's drinking. Snapping at people. Avoiding questions. And carrying a level of anxiety that feels impossible to ignore. What is she hiding? Did she witness something? Did she see Jodie attacked? Did she see who killed Theo? Or is Jodie using a secret against her from somewhere in the shadows? Because if there's one thing we've learned about Jodie Ramsey, it's that she never needs to be physically present to control people. Her influence lingers. Like a ghost. Like a poison. Like a voice whispering in somebody's ear long after she's gone. And that's exactly why I don't believe this story is over. Not even close. Here's my prediction. Jodie Ramsey is alive. The blood is real. But the story behind it isn't what anyone thinks. I believe she staged part of her disappearance. I believe she still possesses information powerful enough to destroy multiple lives. And I believe she's waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Maybe she has evidence about Theo's killer. Maybe she has proof connected to Olivia's father. Maybe she has secrets capable of destroying the entire Platt family. Whatever the truth is, Jodie understands one thing better than anyone. Information is power. And she has spent months collecting power. Which means her greatest move may still be ahead of her. Imagine this. Months from now, the Platts finally start moving on. Daniel begins healing. Shona starts believing the nightmare is over. David lets his guard down. And then, the front door opens. Jodie walks in. Alive. Smiling. Holding every secret they've tried to bury. That would be devastating. That would be explosive. And honestly, that feels exactly like the kind of twist Coronation Street is building toward. Because villains like Jodie don't simply disappear. They evolve. They adapt. They return. And when they do, the damage is always worse than before. Right now, Weatherfield is trapped between two terrifying possibilities. Either Jodie Ramsey is dead, or she's preparing her next move. And somehow, the second option feels far more dangerous. Because if Jodie really is out there, watching, waiting, planning, then the worst chapter of this story hasn't happened yet. It's still coming. And when it arrives, nobody will be safe. Not Daniel. Not David. Not Shona. Not Sarah. And certainly not the person responsible for Theo Silverton's death. Because one thing is becoming painfully clear. Jodie Ramsey may be missing. But her shadow still hangs over Weatherfield. And shadows have a habit of returning when you least expect them.